recording now?
I hope so. Pretty
Hope
sure.
is not a strategy.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
Pretty sure.
Okay.
Wait, is it my turn?
Mm-hmm.
Were you?
You really need to shave. I mean, I said that a week ago.
Were you about
man
Were you about to introduce my podcast?
Oh, it's your podcast. It's your garden. It's your gym. It's your podcast.
No, it's my turn.
It is indeed your turn.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Proceed.
Okay. 5?
Oh, really?
Well, now I've lost count because we've done so many.
I tried to say 3 last time. You said 4.
Yeah.
5.
Yeah. All right. This is Hypercritical. I'm your host, Spencer. I'm here with my co-host, Shannon, and our inaugural guest, Patrick.
Patrick Staten.
Patrick's here with us to chat. He's our first guest.
Happy to be here.
That's your line.
Question mark. No, I'd have to explain the drink, so you're the one that's supposed to say it.
But I thought...
What are we drinking?
Oh, we're drinking Vespers.
Cheers!
Cheers.
We cheers to Lanny earlier. We'll get into an explanation of what that means.
We've already talked about Vespers too, so like we don't have to explain it.
We don't have to explain Vespers, but I do want to hear about Patrick's history with Vespers.
I think it's the perfect drink.
Did you always feel that way?
Not until I had one. James Bond got it right, I think.
I tried to say Daniel Craig got it right, and we were like, well, Ian Fleming. It's Fleming.
That's a whole different thing.
And that's a question I don't know the answer to. Patrick might. But like, was it in the book?
Yeah.
It was written in the book?
It's actually from the film. I think it was...
I think it's in Casino Royale.
Quantum of Solace.
I think you're right.
But they actually list the...
Oh, yeah.
But
that's when they...
I think it's verbatim, like word for word from the book, which I'm not sure which... I think the book might be from Casino Royale. Like
that makes sense.
Recipe.
Because Quantum of Solace, I don't think was a book.
No.
I think it was like notably one of the first ones that wasn't a book.
Yeah.
Well, probably Pierce Brosnan one.
Well, that's odd though too, because where did Ian Fleming get it, and was it a popular drink before?
Yeah, and like this is the conversation we had about Vespers in the previous episode when we were drinking them, is that like if you're like a cocktail purist, you really should hate this drink. There's no reason to do vodka and gin.
That's why I hate purists. I love purists, but I also hate them. I'm a purist in many senses of the word, but I also am not. And if a purist think that's not the perfect drink,
well, the thing is though, it's not being called a martini. No one's saying it's a martini. And anyone who describes it as kind of a martini, I think is wrong. And this goes back to our conversation in the car earlier today. If you go to a bar and you ask them to make one for you and they're like, I'm familiar, but I don't have Lillet Blanc, but I can substitute. I have something else that'll work. And I'm like, stop them if they think the something else that will work is some kind of vermouth. Because that's absolutely not gonna do it. And like, didn't you say you had one?
Yeah,
and it was
I tried,
just like,
and it was okay, but it wasn't anything like this.
Yeah.
It was basically just a mediocre martini. And the bartender was a friend of mine, but he knew it when he gave it to me. He was like, "Yeah, this isn't what you wanted." But
I want to know if like, and there's got to be somebody out there that like has, and if we had $1 million, we could try it. But like a bottle of Kino Lillet.
oh yeah, I'm sure you can find it.
Is like,
yeah.
Is Lillet Blanc like, basically like, oh, we can't use that. We can't. It's a brand. We can't take their name, but it's the same thing. Or is it like, it this specifically? Does it have a distinct flavor to it?
right.
I mean, if it's a French aperitif wine, it's basically going to be the same, is my guess.
Yeah.
We were laughing about the exact scene in Quantum of Solace. The drink has already been introduced to you in Casino Royale because he just like makes it up on the spot, I guess. I don't know. And then there's the whole thing calling it Vesper. But they're on the plane on that like long haul flight, and they're on like a Emirates flight or something that has a bar. And Mathis,
he's like sitting at the bar, yeah.
Yeah, and he looks drunk. And Mathis comes out and he's like, "What's he drinking?" And he explains it. And when he gets to Kina Lillet, he's like, "Which is not vermouth." So you can kind of tell they probably had like a little interaction where James ordered it, and the bartender was probably like, "Oh yeah, I've got a good vermouth that'll work." And he probably like bit his head off.
Yeah,
but 6 of them.
He looks slightly sweaty as well. So
yeah, he looks a little out of it for sure. Well, this is definitely a regular rotation drink now. And I feel like anyone that comes over, it's like, my old coworker Callie, who was like, "What's in a Negroni?" And now every time we're out, she's like, "Going for the Negroni."
Yeah, it's a good one. And I mean, it's in the regular rotation. We're now repeating already. So like, those are the 3 drinks we drink, really.
Yeah, I mean, there's also margaritas.
When
But
you get in the summer, we might have margaritas, but
yeah, but at night, there's something about margaritas at night that doesn't feel right to me.
No, it has to be sunshine.
I think it has to be sunny outside.
you have to like be outside ideally.
It's also drinking like a, I don't know.
Drinking a margarita inside is like.
I lost my train of thought.
I figured you'd come back to it. You
Yeah.
I'm still trying to think of it.
But like drinking a margarita inside is like, it's the equivalent of like having spent time outside at the pool all day, and then you're sitting inside still kind of damp and cold, and you're like, this isn't the right environment for this feeling. I want to be outside. You know, like.
Yeah. It's a patio drink.
Yeah.
Or
Bloody
a poolside
Mary.
drink.
Okay, that's what I was trying to say.
Oh, okay, all right.
It's like drinking one of those, but like at night.
Yeah.
Like
I
after-
want a Bloody Mary before I go to bed.
Yeah.
It seems like.
You're like, what's the matter with you?
Yeah, no.
Like
definitely
you go
times
out,
of
you
days.
go out to drink with people. It's like the evening, and they're like, "Oh, Bloody Mary." You'd be like, "Are you a psychopath?" I mean, like,
I've got a worse one for you. When with my very first boss, with all of my jobs, I've traveled for conferences, going to them and producing them and whatever. And so I've been at airports with coworkers like all times of day. And in this instance, it was on the way home from San Antonio. Like, how does your mind remember? Like, I've been on so many trips, and like I'm like, oh, I know for sure what this one was.
you're because it's scarred.
Because it's scarring. It really, like, I'm genuinely scarred by this. We're at the airport, and this is back when I was like mid-20s, and when I would go to conferences, there's open bar or people buying you drinks. So like I definitely was still in that era of drinking a lot while on the road. So I was very hungover for this early morning flight.
Oh, right. Because
home.
you're like, you're still early in your career when you're like, I can travel and drink, so I'm gonna do that.
Right. And like we could afford alcohol. I just don't know. There's something about you just get caught up in it. Anyway, I'm very hungover.
Yeah.
It's the morning. I'm with my boss and his girlfriend. And, we're killing time. And so we're like, well, let's go get, let's just sit somewhere and get some breakfast or something. So we go sit, and his girlfriend ordered red wine.
Like in the morning.
Which I just feel like
Which
is illegal. The
opposite
Was it
situation.
Merlot?
Probably, which like makes
It's
it
like
even
a
worse.
heavy red wine with your
Yeah.
egg McMuffin.
But it comes out, and like what it's like when you're hungover and you smell alcohol.
Oh yeah,
Even
especially
worse.
like that has like a strong. Yeah.
First thing in the morning, and just like dirty airport restaurant. The whole experience was disgusting.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a daytime. There's like a window of time per day for certain drinks, and morning red wine.
Yeah.
Nope.
Well, so, I mean, like, and then there's just like the drinks that sometimes if we're gonna tell stories about when people drank weird stuff. That one time that my friend Greg came over to like our studio apartment. I was showing him some stuff, and
Oh, right.
like some artwork when I was in school, and I was like, "Do you want anything to drink? Like we've got obviously we've got water, we've got I've
Milk?
got orange.
What
juice."
did we keep?
Please no.
What did we keep
No, but like
then?
we had normal stuff. I think when we like had stuff from having like a group over, because it was like it was an art studio, and so like we had groups of people, and we'd have parties and stuff there. But like
Oh, I thought you were talking about like our.
no, it was at the studio.
Okay.
And so like we had beer in their fridge, and we had like a bottle of gin, a bottle of bourbon, and he's like looking through our stuff. He's like, "Oh, I'll just have a little bit of Grand Marnier." I'm like, "To sip?" Like,
Oh
that's
my God.
weird.
You just reminded me. Same trip in San Antonio. There was this guy, this like kind of nerdy like Canadian guy who would drink with everyone else, but like he just didn't really. I don't think he knew how to navigate alcohol.
Yeah.
And he would do the same thing. He
Yeah.
would get like, and he'd be like, Grand Marnier, neat. No, he didn't say neat though. And like neat's the term.
Yeah.
He would say something else that with confidence.
Like
and
on the rocks.
No, it was
Shaken.
he meant neat, but it was some way of saying it that literally
Yeah.
everyone at the table would be like,
Well, it's like at every bar you see, in just a normal bar too, you see that green bottle of Midori. And they have it for a reason. I
Yeah.
have no idea why, except for that one person that drinks like a Midori sour. I think that one bar we used to go to all the time, they put a mark on the bottle to see if anyone would drink it. And I think
been
that
10
bottle
years.
was dusty and gross, but
so gross.
we started buying shots for people at a certain point where you had to do a shot of Midori.
Okay, I have a question, and maybe neither one of you has ever done this, but it's happened to me probably twice in my entire life. What do you think I'm about to say?
Oh God,
We can't talk about that.
No, and like this goes out. I mean, I don't know. It's not weird,
Yeah.
but like as like a woman, I don't know how to navigate this situation,
Yeah.
and I think most women probably don't. So I just want to ask some. I want to ask a couple of men. I think. Do you know what I'm getting at?
No, not at all.
I'm slightly terrified.
I want to know what's happening in your head. It's not that scary.
Well, I'll tell you later.
If you're at a bar, especially not one that's like a long strip, the kind that's got like where you can see people across the bar. I've had people send me a drink before, and the bartender comes over and he's like, "This is from the guy over there," and I'm always like,
I'm not gonna drink it.
if I take it, I feel like I'm inviting something. If I don't, I feel very rude.
Yeah.
And like they're gonna throw the drink away, which I also don't want. But like, is there an acceptable way to take it and be like, appreciate it, but thanks, but no thanks, but I'm gonna take the drink? I don't know.
Yeah.
There's like, what do you do?
I think like
You chug it and walk away.
no, I think that
think that's what I
there's,
did.
like, I think that like it's like if anybody gave you anything, like I think there's like a degree of like they're giving you something, and like there's probably a toxic culture that's like, well, I gave you a drink, so like you got to talk to me, but like I think you can be like, oh, thanks very much.
Okay.
Yeah,
and
like-
I agree. And like me, I'm so awkward.
Yeah.
Because like it's funny because like I'm actually pretty good with people and strangers. It's like what I do for a living. Like I'm very good at navigating these situations, but this one throws me the 2 times that it's happened.
Yeah.
Because then I escalate it so much that the other guy, like I'm embarrassing them.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I'm really sorry. I don't know. This is so weird.
And you're like getting another glass, and you're like, well, maybe we can split it. Like,
I'll pay for it.
no, here's $20, and we'll split the drink.
Anyway.
I think you saying no to the drink is not going to stop them. A person that bought you a
true.
drink from
Yeah.
across the bar is
Yeah,
not
yeah.
going to stop their pursuit.
Yeah. Well, and typically
know.
I'm sitting with my friends, and I am definitely the type of person that fidgets, and I'm sitting here with like my audible
Wedding
like
ring, just
fidgety
like, oh man,
yes,
my wedding
I don't
ring.
know. I don't think that stops people anymore, but anyway.
2 things on that. One, if I were ever in that situation, I would have no idea what to do, because as a man, like nobody has ever offered proposition to me with anything.
I wonder if women do though. Does it happen? It must happen.
Probably, maybe. But like also like
Should ask
and
David.
I think the one time
He's at bars a lot. Probably now, actually. We could find out.
the one time, and like, I think the one time that I've ever had anybody come up to me in like real life was at like
Versus a video game, right?
yeah, because I mean like I always play female characters in video games so that I do get propositions, and so no, I don't do that. I play the largest
It's true. The biggest one you can
largest
find.
man I can
The
find.
the strong man version of the characters.
But was at like it was at the Dallas Art Fair, and I think
I always think phallus dart air.
Yeah.
Every time.
yeah. It was at the Dallas Art Fair, and I think I was there by myself. I think you were out of town, and
I only
like,
went with you one time.
I was like walking around. I was looking for the people that I was meeting up with, and this guy comes up to me, and he's like, "Where's your wife?" And I was like,
Do you know my
she's
wife?
Not here. Do I know you?" And he's like, "No, I just wanted to see if you were married or not." And
Oh
I'm
my
like-
God!
He's like, "Can I get you a drink?" And I was just like, I laughed. And I
That's
just
so cute though.
And I was like, I have no idea what to do in this situation, but thank you very
I'm flattered.
much.
And
Yeah.
yes, let's get that drink.
I actually kind of want to be friends
Yeah.
with him. Whoever he is, wherever he is. That's a pretty smooth move.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Cheers, my microphone.
So going back to the cheers, we cheers Lanny
Yeah.
tonight, and there's a long family history that goes way, way back. It's actually like the origin story of our parents meeting. Isn't that right? They met at Lanny's.
With most stories with them, I'm not even sure if they met there or they both worked there, or if mom just frequented
Mom
the
frequented,
establishment.
and she told me a story recently, and like, sorry, Mom, I'm going to tell the story because it's so good. And it's one of those things that like, Mom is this enigma, because growing up, she was just like classic, like almost like stereotypical, like mom, like worried about us, and I don't know, like we like Little League baseball and cheerleading and all the things.
Cooked and cleaned and took care of
Yeah.
7 people and 5 dogs.
And never herself. But So then when like, especially when she's like had a drink with us, which I love that part of adulthood is drinking with your parents and finally getting the stories. And one
They're
of the
so
things,
nonchalant about it too. They're like, "Oh, well, this is how we did it," and it's like mind blowing to
right?
you.
And they're like, "What?" I was a teenager once. I was in my 20s. So, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. So this story in particular, I think this is how it happened. We asked her to clarify. Did you and Dad meet at Lanny's? And my dad worked at Lanny's, which is like a dive bar sandwich place in Charlotte. And
not a chain, not anything like
exactly.
that. Just like a, you know.
And there was a guy named Lanny
Yeah,
that was
Lanny
there every
opened
day.
it, yeah.
Right. And so my dad worked there, and my mom would go in regularly, especially once she like saw my dad. It was like, I'm going to go hang out at Lanny's.
Oh, so she was propositioning him.
Oh, for sure. Oh, I mean, I'm not allowed to tell that story, but absolutely, I'm pretty sure she made the first very obvious move. But she would say like, oh no, I had like my bar stool at Lanny's, and she would order vodka tonics, which is her drink to this day. Speaking of drinks, actually, that's a drink we could make.
Yeah,
we can do soda for you. I know you don't like tonic very much.
It tastes yucky.
I don't like it. So she always drinks it with limes, like multiple. Like if someone brings her a drink with one lime, she's like, what am I supposed to do with this? And whenever she would get a refill, she was like, keep the limes in, just add new ones. So that way it would reach a point where the glass was getting like more and more full of dead limes.
When you've got like 14 limes in there, and it's
That's like keeping your bottle caps in your pocket to know how many drinks you've had.
That's exactly
that night,
it. So she'd be like, well,
I've got
one
9
more.
limes. I've got 9 limes in this.
But I love that trick. I think that's brilliant.
I guess like too, like takes up volume. So you're actually only having like half a drink at one point.
True. Well, and if the bartender was a friend, he would probably start doing a heavier pour of tonic and maybe like a little taste of vodka on the top.
Yeah.
Like maybe like a vodka topper.
We've done that too at the beach with Mom.
We did. Oh God.
She'd be like, I'll take another one. I'm like, yeah,
We're
I'll
like,
bet. You should probably have some more water. But
no one's driving anywhere, but like I think you're
still,
done.
like there's like there's a point where like your health is in jeopardy.
Well, it's also day 2 of, you know, 7 days. So like we don't need to overdo it to quite that level. Anyway, origin of a lot of, how would you describe it? Like family bonding. Just like, it feels like family history is Lanny's and sandwiches, which is
for
what
some
Lanny's
reason
made.
we just stuck with sandwiches, and I don't know if that's just because of them working there, but during the week that was one of the few things that Dad would actually make though too. Like,
right.
It was Reuben's and the grinders and whatever other sandwiches we had, but that was his thing. Mom was cooking 5-6 nights a week, except on Pizza Fridays.
Fuck, I love Pizza Fridays.
And sometimes even then it was we made the pizza, but most of the time it was frozen or
and if we made the pizza, it was like a crust from the store.
But yeah, that was kind of his thing, and that was kind of odd to see him in the kitchen actually taking control. And that's why he would put his foot down with like us not wanting sauerkraut on our Reuben, and then he'd be like,
okay, that's
not a Reuben. So that purist side, I never understood it as a kid, but now I totally get it.
That's what I wanted to go back to, was the purist perspective with you.
Yeah.
I do think there's 2 things that are funny to that. One is, you know, we were talking about last week in terms of like your ground beef tacos, and it's like ground beef and cheese, because everything else was gross. And then your dad's like, no, you're eating the fucking sauerkraut.
I mean, when you're like, you're 8 years old and you're like, I don't have the palate for this yet.
I don't want steamed onions and green peppers. Yeah. I don't want it.
And like grinders were a sandwich that literally, that was like an exciting meal. And it was a cheap thing. So like, I don't know why we didn't do it like really frequently. Yeah. But it literally, my mom had like, this feels like a very 90s. Special. Yeah. Feels like a very like 90s appliance to have in your kitchen. I don't even know if you can still buy them, but it's literally like a platform thing with like multiple plastic racks, and you fill it with water, and it's a steamer.
I don't even know what else she would use it for.
Sometimes broccoli. I don't know.
But
really just sandwiches. And like as a kid, again, like your palate is not developed yet for things like a sandwich that was like roast beef, diced tomatoes, diced white onion. And green and red bell pepper, and then a little bit of cheese, and just steamed.
Yeah, not sauteed.
Imagine
like
that
cooked.
texture.
Yeah, nothing.
And that's the other thing I was going to say, is that the other funny part is like, you know, being an adult now and thinking about like, you know, if our nephew was here, our younger nephew, or like
the 9-year-old.
Yeah, if our 9-year-old were here, or like a, you know, even a younger kid, and we were making grinders or whatever.
Or Rubens.
I would be like, yeah, eat a fucking beef sandwich. I don't care. I'd rather you eat something and not complain.
Right.
Than force you. Because like, I remember as a kid, you know, like this is like my parents trying to like force me to eat vegetables and stuff as a kid, or like just discipline me in some way, which they rarely did. But like there's notorious stories about me sitting at the kitchen table until like 11 p.m.
Oh my God.
because I would refuse to eat, and they're like, you're not getting up until you eat your food.
What would you not eat?
Like grilled chicken, because it was like there was like char grill on it. Grill, yeah.
It has black stuff.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm
it.
not eating it, and they're like, you're gonna eat the chicken, or like, you know, like a squash. And this is probably why I hate zucchini and yellow squash, but like same thing. Like, and like I just didn't like it. I didn't want to eat it, and like, you know, I'd be like sitting there like putting it in my mouth and like gagging. Probably not because it didn't taste good, but just because I was making a show.
Right, of course.
And then I would like hold it in my mouth for like 5 minutes, refusing to swallow it.
Very dramatic.
Yeah.
I remember those too, because I remember everyone would get to go into the living room and watch Nick at Night or something like that. And I didn't even like Nick at Night. It was like Dick Van Dyke Show and Green
Mary Tyler Moore and Rhoda.
Shannon loves all those.
And yeah, you
did,
loved
I
it,
really
and you got to
did.
go. Yeah, but I would have to sit at the table, and I remember one of the reasons I don't like raw onions unless now it's changed. Like a good taco or a street taco or something with white onions. That's another topic too. Is
I
white
still feel
onions.
scarred.
The point and place of where white onions are acceptable. Anyway, I reached in the bowl. I don't even know what it was for, and I ate it because I wasn't allowed to leave the table until I ate some onions. And they yelled at me from across the house saying, "We didn't mean just eat the raw onions."
I can hear Dad
Yes,
saying it.
and from that day I was scarred from eating
Raw white onion is
What's funny is that like
pungent
I feel like I
ingredient.
had the opposite experience with onions. Is that like as a kid I hated onions, you know, and then like one day I was and I guess this is like there's like a lesson in discipline here, and like disciplining a child. But like I was at a friend's like birthday party, and they were doing like a cookout barbecue, and you know, like had like the spread of burger toppings, and you get to build your own burger. And I'm like, I hate onions, they're gross. And like my friend's dad was like, just try one. And it was like a ring of white onion, and I was like, I think I like it. And like
oh my
to
God,
this
and
day,
you didn't even eat it on a burger with everything else to make it make sense. You just
and
ate
then like
a raw
to this
white
day,
onion.
I'm like, oh, the white onions are good. And it's just because like
You're also really weird with food ingredients, though. You'll just eat raw vegetables dry, and you're like, taste
spinach
it.
ball.
We don't have time for that.
spinach ball.
He just eats raw spinach.
You
It's
just
weird.
take a handful of
No.
spinach, you compact it, and you eat it like an apple.
Anyway.
Wow.
Yeah.
I have tried with white onion. I can't do it.
I'm trying to figure out the place for and I've literally
You're right,
I can't
street
think of it.
tacos.
So street tacos with cilantro, unless you taste soap.
Burgers.
Burgers make
Hot
sense
dogs.
to me.
That's the
I
other
guess
funny
hot
thing,
dogs.
like cilantro and asparagus, and like the kind of things where like they taste different or they have
I
different effects on
can't eat
people.
cilantro. It's not good.
I fucking love cilantro.
You don't like it? Do
I
you
don't
get the
I
soap
have-
taste?
I have that gene where it's literally like
That's
it
so
doesn't
weird.
And it
compute.
seems like there's
I
a
really
lot
don't
like
it.
I feel like there's more people at the ends of the spectrum than there are. There's few people that are like
I think I'm the middle. And
that are like, cilantro's okay. And it's either like cilantro's fucking vile or cilantro's like good.
I really don't like it. Morgan
like
loves
you said,
it.
because there's people like that actually eat it like it's I don't know, lettuce or something, you know, or whatever. But I can't. I think I'm in the middle. I wouldn't miss it if I didn't have it, and I don't mind it if it's on there.
Our sister Morgan loves it, and she's like, if there's a spectrum, and it's hate cilantro, love cilantro. Morgan's like here.
Which is weird because you're from the same family.
And that's weird that I didn't even know that.
She loves.
I know nothing
cilantro.
about her
And
cilantro love.
One year for Christmas, I almost got her in her stocking, and actually I think I will this year if I remember, because it's just too
Just
funny.
a bunch of cilantro.
No, better. At like Target, in the like
it wet?
section by herbs, there's like a toothpaste container
cilantro tooth.
full of like basil,
Yeah.
parsley, and so it, like you keep herbs in your fridge,
Yeah.
and there's one that's like just cilantro. So we joked about like her like brushing her teeth with cilantro paste, but that's how much she loves it. I mean,
Yeah.
literally keeping it on hand at all times. But that French dip that we like from Commissary,
I've had it.
It's
with the it's got like a bone broth like
It's a
washu.
pho.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
pho.
Okay.
And they've
And it's got
a little bit
cilantro in it, right?
And it's got like kind of like the spicy mustard and like
Yeah.
jalapenos kind of thing going on.
Okay, really quick, I want to finish my little thing, and then this is
Yeah.
a perfect segue to what I really want to talk to Pat about.
Wait, I have one more thing I want to talk about after that.
So where do we stand with white onions? I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
I really just.
I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Their French dip is really good, and especially when all of the ingredients are on point.
Yeah.
And typically, I'm getting ahead of myself here. When it's good, it's good. It's not always good though. And we talked about this.
Sometimes like there's fatty meat or whatever. They're inconsistent.
I've had it once and I
sometimes.
wasn't blown away, but I did
Yeah.
like the concept of a Vietnamese.
Yeah.
Like,
French dip.
yeah, and like the mustard on it is so good. But you'll take a bite and just get a bunch of like overly steamed from the heat of the sandwich cilantro with the stems, and that's my biggest beef with it. I'm like, why?
when
No one
greens are
wants
like-
greens
yeah.
stems.
No,
All right.
So that I have that moment, and I'm
Yeah.
like, definitely hate cilantro. But we talked about this.
And it's like when it's steamed too, and it's like kind of it's not like
like
chewy
brown.
and stringy.
Yeah.
And it doesn't like crisp and bite. Yeah.
But we talked about this a couple episodes back, but basically like the hospitality and service industry and food and restaurants, not only in Dallas, but everywhere. And we agreed pretty like strongly that one of the worst things that can happen with a restaurant is inconsistency.
Yeah.
The second you have an experience where you're like,
Yeah, I mean, like
this wasn't as good.
Same thing as we were talking about before, but like you could eat something. You go to package, you can go to commissary 10 times and be like delicious, 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 and then like the 11th time you're like, oh, that was weird. There was like a weird texture in there.
Yeah.
And you're like every
yeah.
time you go back, you're like, but is it gonna have the texture?
Yep.
It's one of the hardest
Yeah.
things to recreate. Period is consistency. And not to say places like McDonald's, but they've
True.
got it so
Yeah,
streamlined to where
Yeah.
anywhere you go, it's going to taste the same. Again, I'm not saying that any of it's even real food, but they've got it to where
Right.
it's the exact same every single time, and it's tasted that way forever. So,
Yeah.
and that's like what y'all said. That's one of the most important things is getting consistent every single time. And that's a really hard thing to do.
I want to ask one question before we move on to sandwiches, though.
I feel like we should take a second too, and Pat should describe
Yeah.
more about himself.
Yeah, I think we can do a better
because
intro.
we're assuming right now that people
Yeah,
know, and
they don't.
a lot of people
It's a
don't.
secret. You have to figure it out. Put the context clues together.
But go ahead.
I mean, I know 2/3 of the answer to this. Who has the asparagus gene?
I definitely do.
I do.
No, I think most people do.
What are we talking about? Are we talking about urine?
Yes.
Yeah.
Cutting straight to the chase.
We're talking about pee, right?
I think I've always
if
weirdly gone to urinate, and after I've eaten asparagus and tried to smell what's going on, and
So
I
you
never
don't?
really got it. Yeah.
Wow.
Oh,
I
you
thought
would
it was
know.
you would know. Like,
Okay,
You would
really?
know.
yeah.
Okay.
You would
I
It's
didn't
like
know it was that
within
strong.
within 30 minutes, you're like,
I
whoa.
thought I didn't know. I thought that was everyone, and I remember being like, I don't smell anything.
Yeah.
but what
smells like
happens to
this.
me is while we're on, I mean, we're just gonna go for it.
Yeah.
I forget,
Yeah, for sure.
and then you're
And
in
you're
there,
like,
and
there's something wrong with me.
you're like,
what the fuck was
is-"
that?
Then you're like, oh yeah,
Oh,
asparagus.
yeah. Oh, yeah, we had asparagus.
Why
There are
couldn't it-
times where I hear you go into the bathroom, and like I hear you from around the corner because like we don't close the
Yeah.
door, and then I hear you go,
those
oh,
Ah, yeah.
and I'm like, what's he do? Oh,
Oh. Yeah, but no, you would know. Anyway, we can move on from that. I just want to throw that in there.
Last little quip. It's a French dip, but it's a Vietnamese inspired one. But those two go hand in hand with
Oh,
the
yeah.
French baguette and the Vietnamese
Yeah,
banh mi.
because that's how a
That's a good
banh
point.
mi.
French influence in
the banh mi,
Vietnam.
yeah.
And,
it's a
so
really smart.
That's a very right
Yeah.
in your face, but I mean
Yeah.
not in your face also. So
The mustard isn't at all. Well, although banh mi is French and
Yeah.
Vietnam, so the mustard feels French.
Well, I feel like it's the opposite. You know, like the banh mi became, you know, it's the application of the French culture in Vietnam. They're adopting what, you know, the French are bringing in. And like, this is like turning that around. Like, you're just like, okay, you're going to take one of our sandwiches. We're taking one of yours. You know,
Yep.
take your French dip and I'm going to put like, you know,
and they
fun-
got a
fun.
they got
Yeah.
a baguette, which is
Yeah.
I mean one of the Rolls Royces of breads, and they're not really a bread
Yeah,
eating
no.
society. So the mustard thing too. I think the friendship actually started in California. I think it's Felipe's, something like that. But they use a really strong horseradish Dijon, and that's
I love
like
horseradish.
I think they're like they've gotten that title for the first French
Yeah.
dip. So that would make
Ooh,
sense. If
okay.
they're using
Okay,
like
so
a
we need
very
to go there
strong-
as
Yeah.
soon as possible.
I think it's in Los Angeles
Should
somewhere.
be like a pilgrim, like a whole like sandwich pilgrimage.
French
We should
dip.
take
It's so
go into the homes
Yeah.
of sandwiches.
Okay.
But
I have a good segue to
Let's-
do the background
Okay.
without being like, "Hi, Patrick, tell us who you are. What do you
Yeah.
do?" So, we kind of started the conversation with the backdrop of sandwiches in our family.
Yeah.
And just to kind of highlight that a little bit more.
sandwiches in our family, scarring food experiences, asparagus pea.
Okay, back to
Yeah.
happy nostalgia for a moment and set aside the trauma
Yeah.
of white onions. I want to know how many people have been personally, raise your hand if you've been personally traumatized by white onions. This is a Mean Girls reference. Actually, it's the second time I've mentioned Mean Girls on this podcast in only a couple of weeks.
I've been more offended by onions than most people, I think.
Genuinely. They're just aggressive. Anyway, growing up, our mom would make those classic meals that were like meat, vegetable, starch, always.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what the three things on the plate were. There was some kind of bread on the side, and if there wasn't, and the meal was perfect and beautiful and hot for
know where you're
7
going
people, all these things, right? If there wasn't a roll or a biscuit or
Yeah.
any kind of bread, it wasn't good enough because inevitably one of 2 people at the table would say,
Where are the rolls?
"No bread?
No bread.
Where's the?"
No
My mom would be
biscuits?
like, she's like the mom in
She felt
Christmas
it too.
Story.
She knew we were fucking with her, but she that hit her a little bit. That got her. That was
sure,
like
like-
a little chip.
to
it
put
was always-
food on the table that's hot, includes a vegetable. All my 4 kids under the age of 13 are all sitting here about to eat, and it's not quite right.
Yeah.
Because David, our older brother, had to make it into a sandwich.
Yeah.
And you're looking at the meal and you're like, you can't turn that into a sandwich. And he's like, watch me. So my memory of it is more David, but all
Yeah,
of,
and
you know,
I don't know where that came from, really.
I don't know, but he literally, it didn't
Yeah.
matter what it was. Like, name anything that
Sandwiches are good.
he could literally make it into a
And
sandwich.
there was always the sandwich thing, and then he would do that, and he was older than me, so I probably looked up to him, and I
Yeah.
wanted to copy him and make something into a sandwich too.
Yeah.
Yep. And like there were little things too growing up, like going back to like our dad in the kitchen making sandwiches. Our dad was great. And like we're lucky that we had, both of our parents in our house like the whole time we grew up, and like dad was around, but dad was also like grumpy old man.
Yeah.
He was 49 when I was born. Like
Yeah, he was always an old man. Period.
think about that for a second. I remember asking mom, I'm like, when did dad start to turn like grumpy? And she's like, around when we started having kids.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, damn it was our fault. But like little things, like if he saw us, even as like 7-year-olds, making a peanut butter and jelly, like before we were going to the baseball game that night or whatever, it would just be like
It was a certain tool. It
Yep.
wasn't just
Yeah.
a butter knife. You had to use
butter
a
knives are
specific
stupid.
spreader, not even a metal one, a specific white plastic one. You know what I'm talking about. You would have to go end to end, side
Yep.
to side, top to bottom.
Yep.
We would do a thin layer of peanut butter on both sides.
Yep.
And I see people still to this day put peanut butter on one side,
Doesn't it bother you?
jelly on the other, and that's probably the majority of people that make those
Yeah.
sandwiches.
Oh yeah.
That's how I do it.
And then,
Well,
but we
we're
would
gonna
do
get to
both
that.
sides, and then a thin layer
And I
of
also
jelly in the
wouldn't
middle.
thinly spread it. I just like
Okay, but
flat
this is
peanut
my
butter.
next point. Sorry,
You said
I know I'm
yeah.
dominating this right now, but I feel
you want to make specific points tonight.
I feel very
Yeah.
strongly. I'm about to pass it off to Patrick, but the whole point is like the relationship that we had with our dad was as you're a kid going through all of these experiences with him, it was tough because nothing was good enough, not even making a fucking peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And then you hit adulthood and you're like, you watch someone else, like I watched you the first
Yeah.
time I saw you make a sandwich, I was like, what the fuck are you doing? And I'm like, and you even were like, no, you should do it for me. You're better at it than me. And I'm like, you can't spread. Okay, you really can't. Let me do it. So I'm actually really grateful looking back
Yeah.
on the way my dad taught us a lot of things. Like I think that we're all really good drivers. And even though I
If
get
we're
pissed
looking for a
off,
metaphor, a sandwich is the perfect thing.
I think
There's
it-
layers, there's depth, there's all kinds of
Right.
stuff.
So my
It's
question for
discipline.
you, Patrick, is like we all kind of experienced the sandwich history in our family, but like you kind of kept it going, and I think it has turned into more. I know it sounds silly, like Patrick loves sandwiches, but like there's a love of food. There is a side to that. There's like hospitality. There's taking things that are special to people's families and experiences. Food brings people together. I feel like all those things are really important to you, and I'm kind of curious, like if you look back, like was there like a turning point where it felt like I want to be part of this, I want to do something with this, or are you just like I don't fucking know,
I think
just like
it was.
sandwiches?
I think it was just. I mean, without even relating it back to it. I mean, I love the trying to make a correlation here. But, I was doing more corporate stuff, bigger things, and I couldn't stand that anymore. And I got into an opportunity to where I could work for a couple of cool guys, and it happened to be a sandwich shop. How that happened, I have no idea.
That's kind of awesome.
I have no idea, but it's given me the freedom to do. I mean, as lame as it sounds, just like you said, people think about family meals or whatever, or sandwiches, or for their Christmas dinner or whatever, and you can turn that into something cool and fun and make it into a sandwich. Like the idea of a Christmas dinner or a Thanksgiving dinner. I mean, people do that with leftovers all the time, but you turn it into something handheld.
also
Handheld things are all across the world throughout all history.
So true.
Be it tacos or whatever,
Yeah,
it's
a good point.
Anywhere anybody puts something in a handheld form.
Yep.
And it could be whatever, and everybody knows what that's like and what it's about. So,
but I feel like you had your sandwich list even before you
Yeah,
worked at a
but-
sandwich shop.
yeah, totally.
So like the sandwich passion has been there.
And this
You know,
list
like-
is
I have no idea.
solid
It's
gold,
kind of
and you need-
psychotic. I don't really get it at all.
It's awesome, and you need to protect it. I think I took your phone when we were talking about it once, and I meant to send a copy, but then I was like, I'm just gonna share it so I can see him keep adding to the
Yeah,
list.
it's hilarious because we're on the same thing. So you see when I'm editing it,
Yeah.
which is usually when I'm like had a few drinks or it's 2:00 in the morning.
I
I'm in
always
bed, I'm
assume
like,
that, yeah.
we should use chicken skin on this. We'll
It's
deep fry
brilliant.
it and it'll be crunchy and
Exactly.
delicious.
There are some in there that are so good. And I'm
It's
just
most
like,
of it's just notes too, is what's hilarious to me because I'm like, we need.
There are some things in the-
smoked soy sauce, and then I'll go back and read it. I'm like, what the hell was I even think? What was I going to use that for? I don't even know. That's the majority of those
It's a good
things
idea, though, right?
on those notes. So I don't
It's
know.
like waking up in the middle of the night. You've like had a dream and you're like, smoked soy sauce.
Yeah.
And
au
you're
jus,
like, what do you guys think this means? Is there something?
I remember a weird one
It's
too. Was like
sure.
fish and chips, and it was because I had never had malt vinegar until I had it with fish and chips, and I thought
don't
it
get
was
that.
What? You don't get it?
I mean,
okay, I get it. I'm not gonna.
But like malt been on fry. I'm like, I'm just supposed to.
on the fish with some lemon juice and some
Well, that's
salt.
too, but like on the fries.
Yeah, a little bit there too.
All right.
Is that like a condiment that people use, or is that just like something that's like held on?
It's British
from,
and
like-
Irish, I think,
yeah.
and Scottish or whatever. But I think
Even they probably think it's weird.
Yeah, but I mean,
I don't know.
is that like the equivalent? I can't even think of an equivalent. But it seems like something that's like only made because it's like somehow gripped into tradition. And like
Probably.
you're like,
And you're like, no one likes
everybody's
this.
like, no, this stuff is vile. But like, like,
You want to think that people in Australia, for example,
like Marmite, yeah.
don't actually like Marmite, but I'm telling you, they do. Have you ever had it?
yeah, we use it in our vegan. Maybe we use Vegemite. I can't remember. But
I wish-
in one of
Same
our
thing.
vegan sausages.
Pat, that was a perfect opportunity to go. Yeah, we use it in the French dip.
Yeah.
What?
Um,
No, but like we've had it like spread on a cracker with an Australian, and they were like, no, it's delicious. I have this as a snack, and I'm like,
It's not good.
it
just
just
tastes
reminds me
like-
of Mad Max and dog food or something.
it tastes like if you took a multivitamin.
Oh my god,
and
it
made
tastes like a
into
vitamin.
a paste,
Yes.
and which is like the point of it. I think
That
it's like
vitamin burp
just like
taste.
nutritional yeast substance.
What's the
you
third
know?
one? There's Vegemite, Marmite, and there's another one.
Don't know.
Damn, I'll think of it.
Damn, yeah, I don't know.
None of it's good though.
Isn't one of them like one of them's the Australian version, and then
one's
there's
the British.
like a British
Marmite, I think, is British.
Yeah.
Or I don't know, because
Yeah.
we have a
I think
British lady at work
Vegemite
that
is
does the biscuits for us.
Australian.
Yeah.
I think Vegemite's, yeah.
And there's a
Australian.
third one. We're gonna think of what it
And
is.
you should hear them talk about it too, because we have an Australian person with us, and we also have a British person, and you should hear them talk crap to each other about it.
Oh man.
And they don't even know each other, but the way they've talked about it, like behind the scenes, like, oh no. they don't know
What's our food that they're like, oh, you
Peanut
think
butter.
you think we're weird? What the fuck is this?
They're like, you think we're weird? I just saw this fucking little girl microwave nachos with American cheese on them.
I thought you were going for the easy bake oven
No.
just now. I had one of those.
Phil used to call it cheese delight, but he used to use Ruffles and American cheese.
That is worse.
Yeah.
American
That
nachos.
Like plain Ruffles.
Yeah.
That's
and American
way
cheese.
that's way worse. Okay, so the sandwich list, and I've told you this before. Like, there's one night we were talking about it, probably the night that I like forcibly shared the note with myself. Is like that is like intellectual property. Like you have to
Yeah,
protect
yeah.
that because
It
you've got
is.
some very good ideas in there. And like
Man.
Spencer, I'm sitting here thinking
Yeah.
about like
I want to discuss in detail, but I also don't.
Yeah.
I
you
think
gotta
that,
be
like
talking
think
about
of a couple
There's
of
a-
examples. I think you could describe the HB because that makes a lot of sense. The HB Junior.
Yeah, it's a pretty easy one, and that's another dad special sandwich. My mom would do like a pork tenderloin. Again, that's a good cheaper way to feed. I don't know what the prices are now.
Pork tenderloin's pretty
Yeah,
good.
right.
back in the day, it was cheap.
Yeah, so you could sear it up and throw it in the oven and slice it up and have a pretty good meal. But there would always be leftovers, and my dad would slice it really thin. It would probably be on just some generic white bread like Mrs. Baird's.
Totally.
Provolone cheese or some kind of white cheese, some mayonnaise, and Tabasco. And that was like the key. He was like, you got to use a little
And he kept
bit
the
of
whole
Tabasco.
thing. Do you think he just like did dashes on the sandwich, or
He would
mixed
mix it. Well, he would put the mayonnaise down. I remember watching it,
Mm-hmm.
and then he would do a couple of splashes of the
Yeah.
A splosh is a word.
Splashes.
And
I like it.
onto the mayonnaise
in the like
bread,
recipe,
and then
just do a
kind
couple
of
splashes.
yeah, and then just smear it in, and then. And I still love that sandwich. I can't believe there's not a cold pork tenderloin sandwich. Like you could do a hot one. Hot sandwich is cool, but cold sandwich, like a cold meatloaf sandwich, that's weird too. Dad had one of those too.
Mom told me that last time I was home. We were talking
cold
about this.
meatloaf.
Yeah.
I think I love the leftover seared meatloaf sandwich, but
Cold sounds good to me, especially in the summer. Like the pork tenderloin sandwich
It's
delicious
sounds
in the-
so good.
yeah.
Cold
Well, it's like
in the
cold
summer.
cold steak sandwich too.
yeah.
Sometimes it's really good.
Yeah.
If we're also going to be name dropping movies too, Meet Joe Black, Anthony Hopkins
Yeah.
makes a cold lamb sandwich with Coleman's mustard.
I don't remember that scene.
Okay,
I only
well,
watched
it's
that
a
movie
wonderful,
like once.
wonderful film, but
It's also like heart wrenching.
it is.
Yeah, but like, and I mean, I think like scientifically too, like the food, it tastes different cold or hot. It's not just like, oh, it's the temperature's different. Like,
Oh,
but,
no,
like,
it's totally,
there's,
it
like-
affects it.
Yeah.
For sure.
Way
Like-
like interacts with your taste buds.
Well, like when
and
we
stuff.
go to Uchiba and we get the hot fried chicken bun, it comes out and
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm gonna wait a good like 8 minutes before I eat that.
Well, that's also because it's hot.
It's
and this
so
is,
hot
this is a
and it's
sensation.
spicy.
Yeah, the hot and hot combo.
I don't
when
like it.
it's like
I hate it.
temperature hot and spicy,
Nope.
it's so hard. It's like
It's really difficult.
but like also at the same time, it's amazing. Like that's like one of those experiences that you're like just like you want to die, but then you're like every bite you're like
No, see, I'm waiting,
and then you just keep going back for it.
yeah.
How hard are we going in sandwiches right now? Because
Well, that's what we really want to talk about.
well,
too,
what's
about.
okay of all
So,
all the sandwiches? What's the perfect sandwich if that even exists? What's the best sandwich? And there's and then you can start getting weird. Burgers are not sandwiches to me.
Yeah.
Burgers are
Burgers,
burgers.
That's another
I mean,
dad thing.
burgers
Dad would
are
call
they
them
are
sandwiches.
sandwiches,
I
but I think
disagree.
that they've become such a
Yeah,
thing.
I think you're right. I think it is
Yeah.
meat between bun. I think
Yeah.
technically it is a sandwich. It's a hamburger sandwich.
But if
we
it's
say that
on
at
a
work all the time.
bun?
But I mean, sandwiches can be on buns.
But I mean, like sandwiches, like
A roll?
Then
I
are you
don't
gonna
know.
like call something on a roll something different, like what we just had, a grinder? Yeah.
Yeah, they call it a
versus
roll
sliced
in-
bread.
hoagies,
in
grinders,
England.
Yeah.
subs, submarines.
Like you get like a bacon roll, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what is that? And you think it's like something fancy, and and then they hand you a bacon sandwich. You're like, it's a sandwich. It's a
Oh, this
breakfast
is like,
Sandwich.
I thought, is this ham?
Okay, my very first thought, like if like my favorite, maybe not perfect, but like my favorite go-to sandwich is tied between French dip and Reuben's.
Hey-o, I didn't see that coming.
I fucking love Reuben's now. Although corned beef with
Yeah.
yellow mustard, like on rye, that's a good sandwich.
A good
too.
like corned beef or like pastrami sandwich.
Hmm.
That's like you feel awful
terrible.
as soon as you're done eating it. Especially like if you go to like a old school deli, like you go to like Katz's or something like that in New York. It's just like known for making
They overdo it on
and
the
it's
meat.
like your
ridiculous.
sandwich is
yeah,
this fucking
you can't
thick.
even. I mean,
Yeah, can I get 6 more pieces of bread?
Yeah.
And I
it's
can
like
take half of
it's
this
like
home?
the stupid burgers you get at like steakhouses or whatever, and they're like, "Oh, look at that!" I'm like, "What am I supposed to do with
Yeah.
this? Like
Well, it's funny how
unhinge
that's
my
unhinged-
jaw?"
Unhinge
Yeah.
my jaw like a snake.
Well, that pub burger thing, I mean, not to go off topic, but that pub burger thing has
He's
kind of
just
gone out of
running.
fashion. Like the big
Oh yeah.
fat.
The big- yeah,
I mean, it's
no.
kind of cool, and I think it has a place, but it's crazy how like a smash burger is just taking over. It's so
Yeah.
much better.
Well,
But
because
isn't
they're
the pub
better.
burger patty way harder to get right? If you're making a lot
Yeah.
of them, it's like
Yeah,
you know,
I
like
think so.
You know, I feel like
Totally.
why wouldn't you just do the smash burger?
Overwork the meat. There's like, yeah, but smash. Just like it's really hard to fuck up a
Yeah.
smash burger. Like it needs to be
prefer it.
crispy. I think so too.
Yeah.
And give me 12 patties.
also,
We can
like-
do that. I'd rather
I mean,
have
right?
that
Yeah,
than
no,
one
exactly right.
big
The same
piece of
height
meat.
of meat, but just
I like meat.
Let's just pause. Just pause there for one moment.
That'll be like you talking about your favorite sandwiches, and it'll just cut to me like, I like meat.
I like it.
But like, when you have a really thick burger like that, like it overpowers. And like by the end, you're like, it just tastes like ground beef.
What do we say every time we're eating a sandwich that's falling apart? It's losing integrity.
Yeah.
You get halfway through and it's so thick and everything's moving around. And okay, here's a question. I want to answer yours too, but like, what's the thing that will ruin a good burger?
That'll ruin. Okay.
The bun.
A bad bun.
A shit brioche bun that's like it's not meant to hold up.
When they assemble it wrong,
Okay,
it's sliding around.
Let me rephrase slightly. What's the one ingredient that when it's off ruins the burger?
When the ingredient is, I feel like you should just tell us.
Tomato.
Okay. Yeah.
Fucking tomato. And it pisses me off because, especially as someone who does this.
There's a whole episode just on tomatoes, by the way.
If you're slicing a tomato, like you literally are back there, right? Like you're slicing a tomato and you're like, this one's really firm and white in the middle. Be fine.
Yeah.
No! Like why?
And like you work in food service, like you've cut tomatoes. How many?
Okay, we cut thousands,
right?
yeah.
And
so why are we continuing when we know
and
it's
like
bad?
I imagine there's a point
you don't want to lose
like,
product.
as an expert, you're like, oh, this tomato's off. I can tell. But like we talked about this recently. And
Shake Shack. They're
like
notorious for this.
And like I, as a customer, and as me personally, like I'm probably most people wouldn't.
As someone who loves meat.
Yeah, as a meat lover, like I feel like if I went to a restaurant, there's two scenarios that play out. I go in, I order my restaurant. They're like, oh, cool, yeah, I can get you the tomato.
You said I ordered my restaurant.
I ordered my restaurant. I ordered my sandwich from the restaurant.
I'm not gonna let that
go. And
you got some bean skin in your teeth.
Yeah. I order my sandwich and it's got tomato on it, and they're like, "Oh, cool, it's gonna be $12." I'm like, "Here's your money," and then I sit down, I take a bite, and I'm like, "Oh, tomato's off," and I'm like, "Fuck," and I pick the tomato off and I eat it anyway. I feel like the other scenario that never happens, and I'm curious why, is like if I went up to the, cashier and I'm like, "I'd like the sandwich," and they're like, "Hey, just to let you know, the tomatoes that we have aren't super ripe. Do you want me to leave them off?" I'd be like, "Yeah, leave them off."
Wait until they ripen.
That's what I was going to say, because that's a huge deal. And I remember I laughed at it. And I always knew this is a big deal, and that's what I was talking about. We could do an entire episode on this.
Trigger.
But one of the guys that I worked with, Mikey Anderson, I love him to death. But a customer came up, and you could tell he was kind of having a long day. And she goes, "How are your tomatoes?" And he goes, "Not in season." And that's one of the main.
He's like,
things.
"It's December."
Like, that was exactly.
Yeah.
So I mean. If we're talking that, so they don't want to waste product.
Yeah, fair enough.
And honestly, at least at the shop I'm at, we'll go through and be like, these tomatoes are shit, and somebody will toss a whole thing of we slice them every day fresh.
I'm sorry, he just put his mouse inside
in the thing. Yeah.
Well, how are you gonna get it now?
He's so cute. But look, okay, wait.
So we don't want to waste product.
But aren't you wasting product knowing that people are gonna be like, this fucking tomato sucks, takes it off and throws it away?
I'm baffled by it because it's
it?
one of the number one things, especially here in this demographic. They're eating turkey sandwiches, cold turkey sandwiches. They're lighter and leaner and whatever. They all come with tomatoes, and they eat them every day. And every time I look at them, I'm like, these are shit tomatoes.
I guess there's a lot of people too that just like whatever.
I think they would. I don't know. I've been to some places where they'll have a sign up and it'll say tomatoes are not up to par, so we're not going to serve that. So maybe more places should do that, honestly.
So do you think it would be annoying?
Maybe people think they're getting less, like they're not getting their money's worth.
Oh my
like,
God,
do I get a discount
like
because
$1.
I don't get my
now
2
I don't-
slices of tomatoes?
Like 12 cents worth. Yeah.
Now I don't know how to feel because I was ready to start asking, but if I'm going to make the guy mad.
No, fuck that. You can make the guy mad, but they're allowed to be mad back. That's what people don't understand. Like you could be a dick, but they should be allowed to be a dick too.
Yeah,
I know you're paying, and they shouldn't
But like
be rude.
I'm the type that I would overdo it, and I'd be like, I'm just asking because I really I hate it when it's like a tomato that's not ready. Like I would just keep talking. They'd be like, lady.
Well, you can ask. I think it's totally worth asking. But when it comes to that thing, I think the BLT is the perfect sandwich. I think it's the perfect sandwich.
I threw a fit about BLTs earlier today.
So earlier we're talking about tonight, and I'm like,
well, again, and I don't think it's a bacon sandwich. A bacon sandwich is a different thing.
Bacon sandwich is a different thing.
That's where the purist side comes out.
I want to make my argument though before you tell a story.
But how can you make your argument before I tell the story?
Because you said something about making BLTs, and I was like, no, I don't want BLTs.
But I'm going to tell the
And
story. Okay.
my point, though, because I think this is relevant, is that a BLT.
They don't know the context yet.
Okay, introduce it.
I mean, it's just a small thing.
Just introduce
The
it.
point is, we're talking about Pat's coming over tonight. We need to make sandwiches. What sandwiches do we feel like making? And of course, he's like, I don't know. You figure it out.
I was
I'm
going
like,
to
okay,
say
I'm gonna figure it
BLTs.
out. I was going to.
But I go, it's not tomato season, so I didn't want to do it.
Damn
That's
it.
why I
The
didn't
tomatoes
even say
are
it
not
to you.
in season.
They're not.
So I'm like, I have my collection on Instagram. It's like sandwiches. And I see one that's like a beautiful BLT. And I go, oh, I know what it is. He's like, what? And I was like, BLT. And he goes, no.
A BLT is a margarita. You
It's a
have
summertime
to, You have to
sandwich.
eat it outside in the warmth and not as a primary meal. I think it's a snack sandwich.
I think so too. I agree. I think it is a snack sandwich. I've got a million things to say on it. But the fact that you said it's an outside sandwich in the summer, me, my brother, and my father used to do yard work every single weekend. It did not matter what was going on. We went through fights and blood and sweat and tears.
Literally.
And my mom, we would finally get to go inside into the AC in Texas, and she would have BLTs, classic Lay's potato chips, and a cold Coca-Cola, and we would be sweating
fuck.
our asses off.
Sounds
and
so
just,
good.
she would salt and pepper the tomatoes.
Okay.
We would just be. It was the greatest fucking sandwich in the world, and it's last part. It's a tomato sandwich.
Yeah.
It's not a bacon
It's
sandwich.
about the tomato.
It's a tomato sandwich. The bacon is just
When people
part
say
of the
like
accoutrement.
a BLTA, I'm like, fuck off.
Yeah, it's
no longer.
That's where the purest side comes
Comes
out
out.
of me, and I don't give a shit.
Totally agree.
If you want to put an egg or cheese or avocado,
It's a
I love it.
sandwich.
I love it.
It's a
That's a
sandwich.
bacon sandwich.
It's not a BLT. In the summer when tomatoes are good, one of my favorite things to do is like I'll be at Central Market and you see like the section of heirloom tomatoes and you're like
you
like
walk over with your little basket. Oh man,
One time
I've never
I saw
felt
a
so white.
no, totally. It gets worse. One time I saw a guy.
Tomato season.
No, I love and like a good heirloom tomato is like so good. And so I saw this guy like you know when the tomatoes like aren't great and you're like I just want one good tomato. This guy's like digging through the ones that are like the
Squeezing them with his
the
grubby
green,
little hands, isn't he?
the like greenhouse tomato. Like
Yeah.
none of them look good. And I walked over and I go, the heirlooms around the corner are really good. And he's like, really? And he went like running. He's like, thanks for the tip. And he was so excited. But one of the best things is sourdough toast, sliced tomato, and mayo.
Yeah.
I think that goes without saying. I mean, it's a BLT.
I mean-
they don't say BLT mayo.
Oh,
BLTM.
that- I mean,
you know what I
yeah,
mean?
right.
But I think
Yeah.
that's a weird thing that people like kind of overlook. You have to have mayo on it.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
No, I mean that's and like
not-
like
it's not
honestly,
dry, Sam.
there's a BLT in. I used to go to Vermont for work a lot, and there's like a little. It's like a really small town, like this like really wealthy
the best tomatoes.
ski town that I would go to, and there was like a little shop in the middle that is probably like a $14 BLT. But the first time I had it, I
Yeah.
was like, I grew up eating good BLTs, but holy shit! And one of the things that stands out to me as really good was the lettuce was like crisp and fresh and cold.
Almost wet. Like,
Yes.
Shake it out.
Yeah. And obviously the tomato was really good. The bacon was like thick and peppery, but there was not a thin spread of mayo. There was like a thick, like
I feel
Dollop.
like I feel like mayo can get like over. It can be too much, but honestly, on something like that
You
with
need
such
it.
few ingredients, it fucking just.
You just-
I mean,
Go
talking
for
about
it.
being white people though, like it's like the most white people
Yeah.
condiment. But I had a friend. I won't call. I
can't
won't
wait to
name
hear
him.
this.
But I had a friend growing up who was like underweight. He was like underweight. He needed to get like his
Don't
parents.
tell me he started eating.
does
more
his
like
name
games,
start with a
but-
W?
No. And he like I'd go to his house and he'd be like, "Oh, I'm gonna make a sandwich," and I'm like, "Okay, cool." And he's like, "I'm just gonna make a mayonnaise sandwich." He would take like Wonder Bread, like white bread.
This is the first sandwich that I'm not on board for.
spread mayonnaise on it, and then he'd eat that.
You know what, Shannon? We grew up with Miracle Whip and American cheese white bread sandwiches.
We didn't put any
No,
on it.
cold, untoasted.
Bologna?
No. Miracle Whip,
Okay.
American cheese,
Okay. So we have two
Iron
things.
Kids bread.
We have two things we need to talk about. One is Miracle Whip versus mayo.
Ugh.
Two, I want to backtrack to tomatoes for one more minute.
Okay.
So Instagram and TikTok videos are obviously dominating the world right
Yeah.
now. Everything is based on like videos on these two platforms. And as part of that is, of course, people posting cooking at home. Some of it's shit, some of it's really good, including guys that make like amazing sandwiches, like Salt Hank, doing some good work. You know him. However, all of them are like making their sandwich and like they throw down the sauce and the spread and the whole thing.
The whole TikTok style thing where they're crunching.
Yeah, it's just sloppy and dirty.
And then they do
and
the slow crunch,
squeeze.
pull apart.
And they squeeze the meat, and I'm like, you're squeezing the juice.
And they do the little knife scrape. Look how crispy
knife
it
scrape,
is.
yeah.
Look how crispy it is.
We hate that.
I don't like it either.
so much. But tomato,
Like it's so hard to toast bread.
Oh my god.
yeah, like
It's
ooh,
amazing. Listen to that.
it's so crispy. I can't believe you. It's kind of charred. I assume it's crispy.
The roof of my mouth hurts already.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh God, I hate sandwiches. They take it too far, and you're like, I'm in pain
Yeah.
for the next like 3 days. No, tomato, and then they just move on to the next ingredient. And I'm like,
No,
Sorry,
yeah.
did
You
you
can't
not put
just
salt and pepper on your tomato?
not at least salt.
I've
at
had people come up
least.
to us and be like, "You guys are the only places that actually salt and peppers."
It makes the biggest difference. Imagine the tomato toast that I make
Yeah.
in summer when the tomato's really good. If I didn't salt and pepper it,
Yeah, no, it'd be gross.
you'd be like,
it
this
would just be
is-
tomato.
Well,
and
yeah,
bread.
the salt's just releasing moisture. I mean, I know it's
Yeah.
full of water and
but you're
juice,
supposed to do it like right before.
yeah, and it'll just keep sucking out juice, and it's just delicious.
But I'm like, you guys know so much about sandwiches and cooking, and you're showing off with your fancy, scraping shit. Like, salt your tomato.
Yeah.
No, like you said, I don't know. Maybe we should. Maybe we should just take tomatoes off. Fuck you. We don't have tomatoes right now. They're not in season. They're not good enough. We're not selling them.
Okay, would you do it with an avocado? If the avocado was green, are you gonna cut into it? It's not ready.
No, it's not.
It's not ready. We don't have guacamole today. Sorry. If I made it for you, you wouldn't like it.
I
Yeah,
was thinking
right.
about the, I was
Yeah,
thinking
the
about the cost
avocado's
of that.
not
We've
right.
been going through so many avocados because avocado it's a breakfast shop too. So
Yeah.
avocado toast is such a huge thing, and everyone loves to add avocado to everything, and I don't blame them. But the time spent, you almost need a person just to process avocados.
Yeah.
So you're like, oh my god, $2 for avocado. It's like, yeah, I had to pay somebody
Yeah.
whatever
not just
an
the
hour
cost of the
just to
product.
do that.
It's not just the cost of the product.
It's insane,
Right.
and then it does not last. You might
Yeah.
get a day, but even
Right.
then, you kind of know that it's like,
Oh no, it's
Yeah,
done.
like you have avocado cut up in the refrigerator for 4 hours and it's turning
done.
yeah,
brown.
exactly.
Yeah,
Even
it's
with
done.
lemon juice or whatever
Yeah.
you want to do, but just the amount of labor.
Yeah, I know.
It's such a pain in the
Well,
ass.
it's like
Oh, go on.
we love Uchiba, everything
Yeah.
about it. The one thing that has been their downfall, and I swear to God, next time it happens, I'm going to say something.
Sometimes they have like a firm, not so flavorful avocado.
But it's so firm that I'm like, I know that the guy back there felt it.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This is weird to me, and I'm sure you have more. Like that, no, it's weird
Yeah.
to me to just move on and be like, maybe they won't notice. It's
Well,
like
this would be fun.
the
It'll
dish
soften
is
up.
rice and avocado.
Yeah.
I'm gonna know.
I broke my tooth on your
mean, I
avocado,
see.
sir.
What were you gonna say?
I was gonna go back to when Patrick was talking about like coming in from outside and it's like hot and like drinking a ice cold Coke and
Coca-Cola classic.
Coca-Cola and all that other stuff. And I just think it reminded me of like the like stuff that you do as a kid. And like ice cold, like that's like a commercial moment. You know what I mean? Where you're like wiping the sweat off your brow
That's
and
how
you're
it
like
felt.
popping the top and it's like frosty and you're like,
Cold Coke when you're fucking hot
Yeah.
in the summer. It's so
I
good.
remember as a kid, I would like, I'd go outside and like, I'd be shooting hoops in the backyard.
Did you just say shoot hoops? Who
the
are
mayonnaise
you?
sandwich.
Yeah, I'd be shooting hoops. I had this was right after Space Jam had come out.
Yes.
The
I
original.
love that movie.
And I had the cassette tape of the soundtrack, and I played on my little boombox.
Oh my
Yes.
God,
And
it's
I'd
so cute.
shoot hoops, and I was probably like, I was like a short.
You were
little,
like short and chubby.
chubby little kid with like a sweatband, and I'd be like,
And your buzzed hair.
missing most of the shots that I took.
I'm gonna be Bill Murray
Yeah.
or Bugs Bunny.
Yeah.
Either way, I'm playing basketball.
And then I'd go inside, like hot and sweaty, and like and you're like out of breath, and I would like chug a glass of orange juice.
Ew! What?
that burns.
Total plot twist. I thought you were gonna say a Coke.
Yeah, me
It's
too.
like the worst thing that you could do
Oh.
after you're in that
Milk
situation.
would have been more acceptable.
Just like, I hated milk as a kid.
I remember there was a kid one
I
time.
totally drank milk as a kid.
When we terrorized the neighborhoods around me, David, Phil.
Oh my God, street hockey.
Street hockey, street baseball. We
Stealing-
destroyed bats. We destroyed all kinds
Stealing
of
the
stuff.
like hubcap covers. What do we call them? Chromies?
Chromies.
You would
Yeah.
actually take
Dad
those off
found
people's
out he
car.
was so
Yeah,
mad.
we would.
Rightfully so.
Oh,
We
yeah.
were like just stealing off people's cars.
But I remember there was this little snotty kid that wanted to hang out with us one time. This was probably in elementary school, maybe probably middle school. I don't know. And
You can hang out with us, but you got to bring us 50 chromies first.
I mean, no, and like, you know, a gold one counted for more than
Yeah.
so stupid.
but we were hot, and the only thing we would do was drink from the hose, the
Oh,
garden
yeah.
hose in the yard.
We would
But
do that as kids too.
He went for it first, and the snake bit him with
Oh,
the
Jesus
hot water.
Christ.
Not the actual snake.
I was like, there's a snake?
The
Where?
garden hose was the snake.
Oh,
and
I
if
see.
you didn't give it its space, it would bite you with the hot boiling water
Oh,
that's
it's like
stuck
in
in
there,
the tube.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
you got to turn it on and let it get cold. And then
Who
he was
was
like,
this kid?
I don't even know his name.
Remember?
He didn't last.
He's probably like
He
a,
didn't last.
He
he's
didn't
like a
want
billionaire now.
hose water. So he asked if we had Coke, and we looked at him like
Coke?
like a Coca-Cola. We were like, what? It's summer.
Yeah.
It's cold hose water. It's the best thing in the world. It tastes like plastic.
And is it
rubber.
safe? Like, is
No,
it
I
safe?
don't think so at all.
I think it's actually like
yeah.
specifically not.
Well,
I
that's how
would
we
like
turned out so well.
yeah. We would like drink from like not even like from the hose occasionally and like
But just
spraying
the
the
spigot.
hose just like down on the,
The spigot.
Just
Yeah,
like-
I knew that's what you were gonna say. Man, that is disgusting. Man, okay. I feel like this is a topic that has already been covered by most people our age on the internet in general, like millennials looking back on the 90s. But like when I think about our childhoods and the way life was led,
Yeah.
it's so weird to me. Like, remember when pre-teen years, like I think when we turned teenage years, AOL was a thing, and like instant messenger, and like people were starting to have cell phones. There was a little bit more like connectivity, but like remember the phase right before that, and you just like lived your life, and you didn't have a thing that was literally always
Yeah.
6 inches away from you at all times. And like if you needed your friends, you literally were like, "Mom, I'm going to Laura's house,"
yeah.
and you would leave the house.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many
just
things.
go.
That, like, and not maybe it was just being a kid, but also like the technology wasn't there. And I feel like we always get into these kind of weird like nostalgia tech conversations at some point. But like, you know, I remember when AOL Instant Messenger became a thing. Remember AOL Instant Messenger?
I literally just said
Yeah.
that. Like,
Yeah.
are you kidding me?
No, I zoned out a little bit.
God, I can't wait to watch this back. I literally just said that.
But
And you're like,
like-
wow, remember Instant
But like,
Messenger?
setting your like away message.
Oh my God, totally.
Yeah. But then also like, you know, yeah, going to your friend's house. And like I would go to my friend's house and I would literally like carry my 12-inch television
What?
to his house so that we could play video games. And it's just like kids
brought
don't do that
TV
anymore.
over.
I have,
Okay.
like my PlayStation under one arm and a 12-inch TV on the other arm. And like go to my friend's house so that we could both play video games at the
What if
same
you
time.
dropped it? Like, how far were you going?
I mean, it wasn't far. It was like down the street. But
So,
I remember little things like we were playing street hockey one time, and I found a wooden keg in an alleyway, and I had left before David did, and I wanted the wooden keg. I mean, it was
Why not?
empty.
Obviously.
And I was like, man, we could do something with this.
we could do
It
something
turned
with this.
it turned into our nightstand for years because we shared a room. Remember
I
that
just
thing?
remembered it. It clicked for me
Yeah,
just
yeah.
now. Wow.
But I couldn't carry it and my hockey stick, so I was like, "Well, David's gonna come down the same alleyway. He'll pick up my stick," and so I just
you
left
don't
my
go back
stuff.
for the keg. You go back for the. Okay.
Yeah, so I left my stuff, the hockey stick and whatever else, in the alleyway, and carried the keg home. And then David, 20 minutes later, comes back with my stick, comes in the house screaming, yelling, Patrick, where? I was like, I'm right here, man. He was like, what the hell, man? You can't just leave your hockey stick
So
in
cute.
the alleyway. And I was like, wow, I just assumed. There's no texting or cell phone
No, right,
there.
exactly.
Hey, I'm going to leave my shit here. You just
Yeah.
grab it on your way back.
Right.
And we would
I
also.
just assumed that he would get it,
Oh, that's cute that you scared him. Like bikes too. Like we went everywhere on bikes,
Yeah.
right? And I remember, and you guys are really gonna laugh at me for this one. There was a neighbor of ours, 2 doors down from the house, in the big house, Mary and Cleveland.
In the big house?
The big house, the 2-story house. Most houses on our street are 1 story. So when it was a 2-story house, it was a big deal. 2 houses down, and it was this woman, Mary, and her husband, Cleveland. Side note, he repaired elevators, and he literally, like, was killed.
Like Mission Impossible stuff.
Like, no joke, like Mission. Actually, no, I think he was at the top, and it plummeted.
Whoa.
It was horrible. But he was a black neighbor named Cleveland. So when we got into Family Guy, it definitely became like a weird.
Yeah.
We had a neighbor named Cleveland who's a black guy. Anyway, I made friends with her as like a 10-year-old because I just like
You were an old woman.
I gravitated to adult.
Yeah.
I would literally, I would like, I want to go hang out with Mary. And my mom's like, what about your friend Laura, who's your age? Who's like another 4 houses down.
You
Like,
watched
why not
Golden
go?
Girls, and I Love
I
Lucy.
watched
and
Rhoda,
Baked
I Love
and
Lucy.
Knitting.
We got to knit. Yeah. I'm going to cross stitch.
And quilt, and
Yeah.
I watched Oprah in the summer. I have no regrets. Anyway, you know, you're out riding your bike, and like, what do you do?
Plastic hair curlers.
The little pink
And
ones.
took baths and had a robe.
Helped mom make dinner. I organized coupons on the weekends. All of this is true. So you're a kid, you're out riding your bike, you're going to your friend's house. Maybe she's a 45-year-old woman. Doesn't matter. What do you do with your bike?
You just throw it on the side of the road.
You throw it in the yard.
Yeah.
Next time you
Mom's.
would like do that riding jump off cool thing and just let it roll. And,
Well, of course you did.
yeah.
But like, you know, mom comes home from work and it's like, where's Shannon? And like, you go out to get the mail and you see Shannon's bike over
Yeah.
someone's lawn, and you have no idea like where you're. And like, Amber Alert was
Yeah.
invented when we were kids,
Yeah.
and a girl that age got abducted and killed within like 30
Yeah.
minutes. So I just think it's ridiculous. Like, looking back, like, we just thought it was totally fine. Just
Yeah.
like, and like your bike is like in the street.
I
You're like,
remember
what?
that-
I just left it there. Well,
It's,
I was
well,
with
it's
my
like
friend.
there's the child abduction side, but also like it's. I mean, I guess we live in different neighborhoods now, but like that bike would not be there.
Yeah, right.
Oh,
You know what I
true.
mean? Like somebody would
Yeah.
pick it up.
Yeah, that's true.
I just
but
remember
yeah,
mom saying, like, we grew up with her saying, watch out for vans.
yeah, I remember
Like,
that.
just stay away
Yeah,
from
if
vans.
anybody
like,
offers you candy, don't take it.
You can take it quickly, but just run.
we thought it was like a game. We would be riding bikes and we'd see like a white van.
And
we'd
it
be
was like,
"Van!"
yeah,
and we would
get
just
away from it.
bolt. We would
Totally.
just like take
Yeah.
off.
But that doesn't stop mom and dad from letting us just be out.
Yeah,
Running
Well, I mean, like,
wild
yeah.
on our bikes
and we would
all
do
over the neighborhood.
Wild shit.
You
Like,
guys were
me and my
worse.
brothers, like, you know, we would like pack up our backpacks with like our snacks and like aerosol cans and lighters so that we can make flamethrowers in the woods.
Where did you get aerosol cans?
I don't know. It was just like in the garage or something.
Oh
you know
my
what I mean?
God.
Like, and
Well,
we'd,
we
like,
would play in like a creek.
Yeah, we'd go out to like the creek in the woods and all this other stuff, and just like we'd be gone all day.
Mm-hmm.
And your mom was like, thank God.
Yeah,
I'll see you when the streetlights come on. Like,
Yeah.
that's a joke on the internet, but it was 100% true. Like, that was literally the
Yeah,
signal
you
that it was
get your
time to
ass
go home.
You better be before dark.
Which is funny when you think about it, because daylight savings, like right after daylight savings happens in the fall, it's dark at like 4:45.
Yeah, right.
Versus in the summer, it gets dark at like 8:30.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like a huge variance, and your parents are like, I'm worried about it being dark out. I don't
think
really
it's
care
more
what time
about
it is.
like the
Yeah.
safety in that sense,
Right.
but.
Well, I remember also we got lucky because that greenbelt ran by our house. We had the creek, and I remember every time
had
we
one
would
too,
come
I think.
home
Yeah.
with destroyed clothes.
Totally.
And she was like, "Oh God, you guys boys were at the creek again."
Yeah.
Like,
Just like covered in mud.
Yeah.
And like, thanks, mom.
Yeah. Chug your Coke on
Yeah.
or your orange juice
Chug your Coke.
on the way to the shower, maybe.
Maybe if you take a shower, might just wash off with the garden hose.
Oh
real
my God,
quick.
right. I remember playing street hockey with you guys, and I was like the goalie when
Mm-hmm.
you would let me play. And man, I destroyed clothes because you're like in your jeans in the literal street.
we would play rough too. We would actually check. Like, we destroyed our friends. They were from up north, so they were like hockey people. We destroyed their garage to where they couldn't open it. Like, they had to open it manually, but they wouldn't park their cars there. We would actually check into
my
it,
God.
and their fence was like fucked up. And then when other
Yeah,
kids
we,
would
like-
want to play with us, they'd be like, "You guys are playing." Like, we would actually like shin check, and
Yeah.
and they didn't like playing with us, and
Could you imagine the joy you would feel?
we would play the Ramones, dude. We'd
No, like
blast our
now,
little-
if you were driving home one night and you turned a corner, and hopefully you're going slow enough to be ready for this, but there's kids in the street with a net, and one of them yells, "Car!" I would literally like pull over and cry. I'd be like, that was the most amazing thing that's happened to me in a really long time. But like, you won't ever. It doesn't exist anymore.
Was it normal? Like, our dad would when our dad didn't. I think it was everyone's dad, but our dad in particular. But when kids would come over, they would just be. I mean, I completely relate to it now, but like, they would look at the kids like, "Who are you?
No, totally.
Like, don't you have your own house?
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing here?
And like,
Why would you want to have a sleepover? Why do you want to spend the night at their house?
Exactly, right.
Like, they didn't understand.
and as kids, didn't that bother you when your mom and dad would be like, I don't know that kid, and like who, and like why do you know anything? And like we lived for that, like
Yeah, right.
sleepovers. I'm gonna go hang out
Yeah.
there because it was a new scene. And like for me, being the youngest of four, it just felt like everything was always about like baseball games and
Yeah.
something more going on. And I was always just like, you even gonna notice if I'm not here all weekend? Like, who cares? Like, I'm just gonna go hang out at my friend's house down the street, and we're gonna watch. I remember like Christmas break in 5th grade. My best friend Madeline, we just literally helped her mom like make fudge at Christmas and watch bad movies. And I stayed over there 2 nights in a row, which is a really big deal. And I remember mom being like, well, you're overstaying, you're welcome. And I'm like, Carol loves me. Like, we're having fun. Don't worry about me. And she's like, really, she's fine. But yeah, it's so funny how your parents just like didn't get it.
I can just picture myself doing that, like being that way too. Like, who are you?
I wouldn't, if I had kids,
Kid?
I'd be
I
like,
mean,
get out of
get
here,
outta
kid.
here.
Go home.
Well, I was,
Hang out in
you
my
know,
house.
I'm me. So like I've always had like my one friend, you know, whoever that is. Like, I'm just like, this is the person that I hang out with.
The friend box is checked.
Yeah. And I don't like make new ones. Everybody else is like suspicious of them.
I'm your
instead.
friend now.
Yeah. You're my one friend. But like, I would go to Will's house and like, I would be there probably for like in the summer, like 4 days in a row.
Totally.
Like I wouldn't go home.
The dailies,
Like,
I lived with
and
them,
like I
basically.
think back to that
Yeah.
and I'm like, I think my mom would sometimes like call and be like, hey, are you coming home? And I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm going to come home tomorrow.
Yeah.
I would just like live
Yeah.
at his house in the summer. Yeah.
I had those friends too.
Yeah.
The dailies were that for me because I was friends with the whole family.
Yeah.
Like, I still am friends with that entire family. Is there anything else on sandwiches we need to cover? What's your perfect sandwich?
My perfect sandwich?
Yeah.
Is it a Spencer
Honestly-
special or is it a name brand?
It's a good question.
Just like I think like if you were going to like just say like you get one sandwich to eat, that kind of situation.
I think it's more of like you can have any sandwich you want.
Meatball sandwich.
Oh, that's a good Spencer answer.
Yeah.
That's a really
I
good
mean, a
Spencer
French
answer.
dip is a really good answer
Yeah.
too. A meatball is a really good one too. That's a really hard one not to.
Is your answer's BLT though?
I think so.
Such a good sandwich.
Yeah.
So good.
I think so. I think they're all very
Uncomplicated.
good sandwiches.
I have
Something
to say,
about a meatball like wrapped in like a
Yeah.
full. It reminds me of Joey from Friends. You know what
Totally.
I mean? I don't
Oh,
even know
yeah.
if that's a meatball. I don't even know if they say that's a meatball. So, but
I always wonder
It's some
about the
kind of
meatballs
Italian
needing
red
to be
sauce.
cut in half.
I think so too. I mean, there's a lot of
No.
rolling with a ball. So I mean,
I
think
agree.
I think it depends on, as long as you got a good consistency meatball, like they're not packed too tight or anything like that.
yeah. And I think it needs to be wrapped and almost steamed in itself.
Yeah.
Like
You do want it to be soft.
yeah. And again, that kind of holds
Yeah.
it together. That's
It's like chicken parmesan.
I'm
Like, it's a
getting excited
delicate
now.
balance of like these ingredients need to stay like this, but then the combination needs to be hot, so you can't screw up like the stuff that's supposed to be crispy and the stuff that's supposed to
Yeah.
be soft. And
It's funny because you said that, like you guys talked about earlier, the layering situation, because that's a real thing, and I still struggle with it sometimes. I'll eat it, I'm like, that's good, but shit's sliding around, and it made me, I'm
Yeah.
pissed off now, and it made it not as good.
That's
Yeah.
why, and that's the main reason, like, everybody likes to add avocado to stuff. I don't, because it slides all over.
I mash it. I don't understand sliced tomato
Well,
and stuff because that's just you're
Avocado.
asking for it. Yeah,
Well,
I
the-
smash the avocado
I've
into whatever it
figured
is.
out from what I can, it has to go on the bottom, and it has to be like a light layer, almost like a mayonnaise. Like
Yeah.
you don't need. I mean, it's nice to have a lot, I guess, but it makes a
Thin,
mess.
and
of
you gotta
it.
do thin.
Yeah, yeah,
You
right.
can't do these thick ass like chunks, because that's just gonna slide.
You're asking for trouble.
That's just gonna slide.
What's the sandwiches we made on my birthday? The Italian
I
sandwiches.
was about to just bring that up. Not
Pat-
just that one, but Italian sauce. Period. Just
We remade the Italian stallion from Jimmy's. My God, so good, and it's like 8 kinds of meat.
yeah.
But when you made it, I never told you this, but when you made those sandwiches on my birthday, those were so good.
Yeah.
They
I
were.
made the exact same thing the next day at home, and Spencer and I both were like,
Yeah, it's not the same.
and he goes,
Weird.
He goes, he does make sandwiches for a living. And I'm like, but I didn't do anything different.
Hey, Papa.
But there was something else, like some factor that you have in the mix.
It was funny because I remember, I think I was pretty hungry at the time, but you had like guests, and I was like, well,
I had like one little sliver of the sandwich, and I was like, man, that was
That was really good.
really good, and I want to like destroy the sandwich, but I need to make sure everyone's okay. And then there was plenty
Yeah.
of food, but by the time they got back around to it, it was like later in the evening. But I was like, man, that was actually really good.
It was amazing.
Bread was a little tough. It was a little slidey, a little slippery, but man,
It's fine.
it was good.
It was
Totally
a good
fine.
sandwich.
I spent so much money on meat.
You
for
did.
that.
I asked you. I was unpacking the
He
bag,
goes,
and I was like,
how
Well, I
much
mean,
was
you
this?
do
I was like,
basically
holy
make
shit.
sandwiches for like 10 people. Like,
Yeah.
if you bought 10 sandwiches,
true.
yeah.
Or like enough pizza for that many people
Yeah.
or whatever. I mean, it would
Yeah,
add up.
same
just
thing.
the same
No,
way.
but those are good quality meats.
and that was like what?
Olive salad,
Had the olive salad on it.
provolone, and literally like pepperoni, 3 kinds of salami, mortadella, which David still thinks he doesn't like.
He thinks it's like olive
he thinks
loaf
it's olive
or
loaf.
something.
He's like, there's olives in it. And we're like, no, you idiot. It's
You're-
bologna.
And also, you're like a 38-year-old man. I think you can eat.
39.
I don't know. I just know you. I just know y'all's birth years now. When people ask me how old you're, I'm like, shit, 80.
I'm like
March
81,
of
83, 85,
83.
88, I don't know.
Yeah, May of 83.
30 something.
I don't even know how old
I
I,
was like,
am.
you don't even know
sometimes.
how
I'm
old
like,
you are.
I don't fucking know. 30s.
He'll be
What is
making,
it? I love you. Or no, Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
Yeah.
Paul Rudd. He's like a surf instructor, stoner
Oh, yeah.
guy. And he's like, how old are you? He's like, I'm 47. Fuck.
You
That's
do that a
kinda how
lot
I
where you'll be
feel.
like, you're making like a really like elaborate point, and you're like,
Yeah.
I'm a 30. How old are we?
Yeah.
I'm like, and then we argue about what mid 30s means versus early versus late, and I feel
Yeah.
like it's a very obvious thing, like 30 to 32,
Yeah, you
30 to
can-
33.
You can break
early
it down
30s.
if you want, but like
34, 36, mid.
once you're past 5, you're in the later half. That's
I think
That's-
mid extends to 36.
you're just trying to preserve that. You're just trying to.
Hey,
Preserve
I'm
the
okay
number.
with it right now. I'm 37. Fuck.
David's turning 40 in like a month and a half. We got to do something.
Are you getting grays?
Yeah.
You're solid black, man.
No, he's got
There's,
grays.
there's a
Alright.
little flex
He's
of
got
gray
him.
in there. If you
God,
look at
man.
it.
Watching these, I noticed I have like tinsel. I have like one like silver hair right here and
Well,
like
let
a
him
couple
go.
back here.
Is mom almost there? She gonna let him go?
She went lighter.
I saw that. It's
I'm
almost
not.
blonde.
Do you know that dyeing your hair and keeping up with roots, you have to go get your hair done like every 5 weeks?
Yeah, it's dumb.
There's no way I'm doing that
She
to
could
myself.
have beautiful silver hair. She's
Yeah.
crazy.
That's cool.
I've got
Maybe,
quite
like,
a few.
imagine if you had like your hair, like the quality of it and
Mm.
like the shape and everything, but if it was just like silver, that'd be sweet.
I just want whatever it means. I don't have to go get my hair done every 6 weeks. It's coming in, and like if you like dig around a little
Yeah.
bit, you'll find more. But you have quite a few, and you have definitely like the temples are gray.
Well, the last couple of years have been a tough one for everyone. We'll say that. But yeah, they've been kind of.
I like
they,
it.
they hit pretty hard and quick. I know that.
I
I know I had longer hair before, so maybe some of it was a little hidden.
I remember you having some tinsel.
Yeah, they were
too.
still
You had
there.
some-
But dad went gray
tinsel.
young, and his dad went white. I think young, like solid
Gosnell
white.
did too.
Yeah, which is
That'd be
cool.
So cool. That's some white hair.
You have really interesting coloring in your beard. You've got a few that are like gray, but then occasionally I'll find one that's like it looks like a copper wire.
Yeah.
Like it is like red.
Like
It's
red,
really
yeah.
cool.
I think we're running out of stuff. I think
No,
we
I
need
think
to
we're
wrap
done.
this up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now we're rambling.
Bapping and rapping.
Can't even talk anymore.
Let's bap it
bopping.
and wrap it.
All right, thanks for coming on to talk about sandwiches
Yeah.
with us and childhood, and
I can't wait to do it again.
let's do it again. We need to think about what we're gonna have David come talk about. Oh, don't let him see that clip ever.
No. We'll there's plenty of things we can talk about with David.
Just not like vendors.
We can
I
talk
don't want
about
him to talk about
precious
work. I don't want him
jewelry.
to have to talk about work because I think
We just
he's
talked
got
to Patrick about work for like
the same thing.
an hour and a half.
Sandwiches were on the topic,
Yeah.
I think.
Precious jewelry. Diamond Dave. We're going to have Diamond Dave on the podcast.
We're gonna talk about
next week.
Diamond Dave. We're gonna talk about PDB.
Yeah.
If you know, you know. Wait, PBD. Excuse me.
PBD.
Oh, and PDB.
What is his obsession?
PDB is perfect, Dr. Brown, and then PBD will say for David's
Yeah.
podcast.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, I think I know what it is.
Yeah.
And
Figure
yeah,
it out.
we'll have plenty of stuff to talk about with David, but
All right. The camera didn't die this time. Well done.
hopefully it's on right now.
We would have heard it.
No, I mean like hopefully I started it.
What was it in the last one where I made sure to say the right episode number? And I think I was like, And it was like a perfect little, like, I did that just for you, Spencer.
Yeah.
Shannon Michelle, episode 12. Wait, 5?
Yeah, 5.
This is 5.
Episode 5.
All right.
Sign out.
That's a wrap. And this is the part where we're
Bit
gonna
awkwardly.
like it gets blurry, and there's music playing. So
Hypercritical.
You still like, it's like in the news shows, like when they interview somebody and like it goes to
Yeah, they're stacking their papers and their.
y'all, when Bean came over and he dropped his Nancy right here, and he was just looking at it like I'm gonna get it, you guys.
I need it here.
It's so cute that you just brought it over though. I don't know what you guys are doing.